Although America is one of the most powerful, advanced, and influential nations in the world, home to billionaires, blockbuster dreams, and the so-called land of opportunity, millions of Americans are quietly living in fear. Not fear of war movies, not fear of horror films, but fear of things so common, so everyday that most people never talk about them out loud. Tonight, we're exposing the 15 most shocking fears Americans have. Some of them will surprise you, and a few might hit way too close to home. 15. Going broke overnight. In the richest nation on earth, millions of Americans live with a constant knot in their stomach. The fear that everything could disappear in an instant. And here's the thing, it's not paranoia, it's reality. Nearly 40% of Americans don't have $400 in savings for an emergency. That means a busted transmission, a broken furnace in winter, or an unexpected hospital visit could trigger a financial domino effect that destroys everything they've built. People go to sleep calculating. They're doing math in their heads at 2 a.m. If I pay rent, can I afford groceries? If I fix the car, can I pay the electric bill? This is happening in a country with more billionaires than any other nation on the planet. We see Lamborghinis on Instagram while families are choosing between medication and meals. The fear of going broke overnight doesn't just stress people out, it changes behavior. People stay in bad relationships because they can't afford to leave. They don't call 911 when they should. They ration insulin. They drive on bald tires and pray nothing happens. And the worst part? One catastrophe, just one, is all it takes. No warning, no safety net, just gone. 14. Medical bills more than death itself. Let's be brutally honest. Americans aren't just afraid of getting sick. They're terrified of surviving. Because in America, surviving can cost you everything. Medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy in the United States. We're talking about people who did everything right. Had insurance, worked full-time, paid their premiums, and still ended up drowning in six-figure bills. There are people right now rationing chemotherapy, skipping follow-up appointments, avoiding ambulances even during heart attacks because they know the ride alone could cost $3,000. A woman once went viral for taking an Uber to the hospital during a stroke because she couldn't afford the ambulance. Think about that. She gambled with her life to avoid debt. And it's not just the uninsured. People with insurance are getting gutted by deductibles, co-pays, and out-of-network surprises. You can do everything the right way and still come out ruined. So when Americans say they're afraid of getting sick, what they really mean is, I'm afraid of choosing between my life and my family's financial future. That's not healthcare. That's terror. 13. Losing their job to automation or AI. The future was supposed to make life easier. Instead, it's making millions of workers feel obsolete. Self-checkout lanes replace cashiers. Chatbots replace customer service reps. AI writes articles, designs logos, even diagnoses diseases. And every day, someone opens the news and sees another headline. AI can now do this job faster and cheaper. Truck drivers, one of the most common jobs in America, are watching self-driving vehicle technology improve every year, knowing their livelihood has an expiration date. Accountants see AI software that does in minutes what used to take them days. Graphic designers compete with apps that generate logos instantly. Even lawyers and radiologists, professions that required years of expensive education, are being outperformed by algorithms. Here's the fear. I worked my whole life to be good at this, and now a computer can do it better. And what are people supposed to do? Retrain? Go back to school? Take on more debt to learn a skill that might also be automated in 5 years? Workers feel like they're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no one's told them where the finish line is, or if there even is one. The fear isn't just about losing a paycheck. It's about losing purpose, relevance, the ability to provide. It's existential. 12. Public mass shootings. Americans fear going to the movies. They fear sending their kids to school. They fear concerts, malls, churches, grocery stores. Places that used to feel normal now come with an undercurrent of dread. Parents across the country have had to explain to 6-year-olds what to do if someone comes into their classroom with a gun. 6-year-olds. Teachers. People who signed up to educate, not protect. Now mentally rehearse lockdown drills and wonder if they'd be brave enough to stand between a gunman and their students. People sit in movie theaters and scan for exits. They go to crowded events and think, if something happens, where do I run? It's background noise now, this low hum of danger that never fully goes away. And here's what makes it even more haunting. It's random. You can't predict it. You can't avoid it by being careful. You're just there. Wrong place, wrong time. After every mass shooting, the cycle repeats. Shock, grief, debate, then nothing. And that hopelessness, that feeling that this is just how it is now, might be the scariest part of all. Because Americans aren't just afraid of mass shootings. They're afraid we've accepted them. 11. Being one paycheck away from homelessness. Imagine working 40, 50, even 60 hours a week, and still knowing that if you miss one paycheck you could lose your home. That's not a hypothetical. That's reality for nearly 63% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. You see people every day who look fine. They're dressed. They show up to work. Their kids are in school. But behind closed doors, they're hanging on by their fingernails. One missed shift because of illness, one unexpected car repair, one delayed paycheck, and the whole thing crumbles. Rent is late. Late fees pile up. Eviction notices arrive. And once you're out, getting back in is nearly impossible. There are working families, people with jobs, living in cars, shelters, motels. Not because they're lazy. Not because they made bad choices. But because the math just doesn't work anymore. Rent has skyrocketed. Wages haven't. A one-bedroom apartment in most cities costs more than half of a minimum wage worker's monthly income. You can't bootstrap your way out of that. And here's the kicker. Homelessness doesn't look like what people think anymore. It's not just someone on a street corner. It's a nurse sleeping in her car between shifts. It's a veteran couch surfing. It's a single mom keeping her kids quiet in a motel room paid for by a charity. The fear of losing stable housing is constant, quiet, and absolutely exhausting. 10. Aging without enough savings. Americans are living longer than ever. And for millions, that's not a blessing. It's a source of deep fear. Because they know they're not ready. Nearly half of American households have zero retirement savings. Zero. And of those who do have something saved, most don't have nearly enough to cover decades of living expenses, healthcare, and long-term care. People in their 60s and 70s are still working. Not because they love the job, but because stopping means poverty. They're stocking shelves, greeting customers, doing gig work, all while their bodies break down. The fear isn't just about running out of money. It's about losing dignity. It's about becoming a burden to your children. It's about spending your final years not in comfort, but in survival mode. And it's worse for women who statistically live longer, earn less, and are more likely to outlive their savings. The retirement dream, the one boomers were sold with pensions and security, has evaporated for most. Now it's 401(k)s that tanked in recessions, Social Security that might not be enough, and the haunting question, what happens to me when I can't work anymore? People are terrified of being old, sick, broke, and invisible. 9. Government surveillance and loss of privacy. Your phone is listening. Your smart TV is watching. Your searches are tracked. Your location is logged. Every click, every purchase, every message, recorded, stored, analyzed. And most Americans know it. They just feel powerless to stop it. We've traded privacy for convenience. We clicked agree on terms we never read. And now corporations know more about us than we know about ourselves. They can predict what we'll buy, who we'll vote for, even when we're feeling sad. But it's not just corporations. It's the government too. Surveillance cameras everywhere. Facial recognition software. Data mining. The Patriot Act. The NSA. The fear that someone somewhere is always watching, and you'll never know why or what they'll do with the information. And speaking out feels risky. Protesting feels risky. Even posting the wrong thing online could end up in a file somewhere, attached to your name forever. The fear isn't about having something to hide. It's about living in a world where privacy, once a fundamental right, is now a luxury most can't afford. People are scared that freedom is quietly slipping away, one camera, one data breach, one policy at a time. 8. Political division turning violent. Families aren't speaking. Friendships have ended. Co-workers avoid each other. And it's not just awkward, it feels dangerous. Americans are genuinely afraid that political division will boil over into violence. And that's not paranoia, we've seen it. The Capitol riot. Armed protests. Threats against public officials. Political violence is no longer theoretical. It's on the news. It's in our communities. People fear their neighbors. They fear rallies. They fear what happens if the other side wins. There's genuine concern that elections could spark unrest, that protests could turn deadly, that this cold civil war could go hot. And every day, the rhetoric gets hotter. Opponents aren't just wrong, they're evil. Traitors. Enemies. When you dehumanize the other side, violence starts to feel justified. Moderates feel silenced. Nuance is dead. You're either all in or you're the enemy. And millions of Americans are stuck in the middle, watching their country tear itself apart and wondering, how does this end? The fear is that it doesn't end with dialogue. It ends with something much darker. 7. Healthcare system failure in a crisis. COVID-19 showed Americans something terrifying. When we need the healthcare system most, it can collapse. Hospitals overflow. Beds run out. Ventilators are rationed. Staff is overwhelmed. And people die waiting. The fear now is permanent. What if it happens again? What if there's another pandemic, another disaster, another mass casualty event, and the system just breaks? People are scared of showing up to the ER and being told there's no room. Of needing surgery and being put on a months-long waitlist. Of calling 911 and no one coming. Rural Americans already know this fear intimately. Hospitals in small towns are closing at an alarming rate. The nearest ER could be an hour away. If you have a heart attack, a stroke, a serious accident, you might not make it. And even in cities, people fear being turned away, ignored, or undertreated because of their insurance, their zip code, or the color of their skin. The healthcare system was supposed to be a safety net. Instead, it feels like a gamble. And when your life is on the line, that's a terrifying bet to make. 6. Raising kids in an unsafe world. Parenthood has always come with worry. But today's parents are facing fears previous generations never imagined. They fear school shootings, online predators, cyberbullying, fentanyl-laced pills, sex trafficking, social media destroying their child's mental health. They fear their kids won't be able to afford college, won't find good jobs, won't be able to buy homes or retire. They fear raising children into a world that feels more broken than the one they inherited. And it's exhausting. Parents monitor screen time, vet every friend, track locations, run background checks on coaches. They homeschool to avoid violence but then fear isolation. They give kids phones for safety, but fear the dangers that come with them. Every choice feels like a gamble. Every headline adds another fear. And beneath it all is the haunting question. Did I bring my child into a world I can't protect them from? Modern parenting isn't just hard. It's terrifying. And millions of parents are carrying guilt, fear, and exhaustion that never turns off. 5. Climate disasters destroying their homes. Hurricanes are getting stronger. Wildfires are getting bigger. Floods are happening in places that never flooded before. And Americans are watching their sense of safety evaporate. People in Florida fear the next hurricane will be the one that wipes them out. Californians breathe smoke for months and wonder when the flames will reach them. Midwesterners watch tornadoes intensify. Coastal residents see the water rising. And insurance companies are pulling out. Coverage is being denied. Premiums are skyrocketing. People are being told, "You're on your own." Families are facing impossible choices. Do we stay and rebuild, knowing it'll probably happen again? Or do we leave behind everything we've built? Our home, our community, our memories? Climate disasters aren't distant anymore. They're not someone else's problem. They're here. And people are scared that no matter where they go, it won't be safe for long. The fear is that nature itself has turned hostile, and there's no escape plan. 4. Being forgotten or left behind. In a world that moves at lightning speed, people fear becoming invisible. Older workers fear being seen as outdated. Young people fear not matching. Everyone fears posting something and hearing nothing. No likes, no comments, just silence. We live in the age of connection, yet loneliness is an epidemic. People fear dying alone, being forgotten after they're gone, not making an impact, not being remembered. Elderly people go days without a real conversation. Veterans feel abandoned. Small-town Americans watch their communities fade while cities boom. There's a deep, quiet fear of irrelevance, of shouting into the void and getting no response, of living a life that doesn't leave a mark. People are scared that in a world obsessed with fame, wealth, and influence, if you're just ordinary, you don't matter. And that fear is soul-crushing. 3. Student loan debt that never ends. They told us, go to college, get a degree. It's the ticket to success. So millions did. They took out loans. They trusted the system. And now they're drowning. Over 45 million Americans carry student loan debt. The average borrower owes nearly $30,000. But many owe six figures for degrees that didn't lead to the jobs they were promised. People in their 30s, 40s, even 50s are still paying off school. They can't buy homes, can't start families, can't save for retirement. The debt follows them everywhere, affecting credit, mental health, and life choices. And the kicker? The balance keeps growing. Interest piles up faster than payments bring it down. People have paid thousands and still owe more than they borrowed. The fear is that this debt is a life sentence, that they'll be paying until they die, that the investment in their future was actually a trap. And the worst part? They're told it's their fault for choosing the wrong major, the wrong school, for not working hard enough. But they were 18 when they signed. They were told this was the only path. And now they're being punished for believing it. 2. Losing freedom of speech or expression. Americans fear saying the wrong thing, posting the wrong opinion, being misunderstood, taken out of context, or canceled. People self-censor constantly. They avoid certain topics at work, at family dinners, even with friends. They delete tweets. They stay quiet in meetings. They're afraid of the mob, the backlash, the consequences. And it's not just online. People fear losing their jobs over something they said years ago. They fear being recorded without knowing. They fear that one mistake will define them forever. Some fear the government will crack down on dissent. Others fear corporate control of speech. Others fear the culture itself, where nuance is dead and context doesn't matter. The fear is that speaking your mind, something America was built on, now feels like a risk not worth taking. And when people are afraid to speak, afraid to ask questions, afraid to disagree, freedom starts to feel like an illusion. 1. The American dream being a lie. This is the most shocking, the most painful, the most widespread fear of all, that everything we were told was a lie. Work hard, go to school, get a good job, buy a house, retire comfortably. The formula was supposed to work. But millions of Americans have done everything right, and they're still struggling. They worked full-time and stayed poor. They got degrees and stayed in debt. They saved and still can't afford a home. They sacrificed and still have nothing to show for it. The fear is that the system is rigged, that hard work isn't enough anymore, that the dream, the one that made America a symbol of hope around the world, is dead. And if the dream is gone, then what's the point? This fear shakes people to their core. Feels like betrayal, like the contract was broken. People are scared that no matter what they do, they'll never get ahead, that their kids will have it worse, that the myth of upward mobility was just that, a myth. And the scariest part? Most Americans are carrying this fear in silence, because admitting it out loud feels like giving up. America looks fearless from the outside, but these fears tell a different story. And the scariest part? Most Americans are carrying them alone. But maybe, just maybe, talking about them is the first step toward not having to be afraid anymore.